What's up, guys? In this video I'm going to show you guys how to remove your W204 rear bumper. My car's a facelift, but should be pretty much the same for a pre-facelift as well. More or less the same thing. The one sort of special tool you're going to need is something like this. It is a sort of long 10mm socket. First thing you want to do is lift up your trunk floor and get it resting up here, just like you usually would if you're in access to a spare tire. First thing you got to do is remove the 10mm plastic little nuts on the back of this plastic panel right over here. One of those plastic caps is right over here, as you guys can kind of see that there. There's also one on the other side. It's the exact same thing. So here's what those plastic caps look like, little 10mm plastic nuts. Don't over tight or anything like that. They're pretty brittle. But next up we're going to need to remove some 10mm bolts off some studs pretty deep in there, which is what we need that 10mm deep socket for. So it is pretty deep in there, but first we're going to remove this plastic trim. As you can see, just pops off after you take off those two plastic nuts, and then we can put that aside for now. And then moving on to those 10mm I was talking about earlier with the long studs that we need the deep one for. So it's kind of dumb, not really sure why it's designed this way, but you can see that's where the stud is right there in the middle of the screen. There's a little access port there. There's one on each side. But the stud is just like super long for no reason. That's why you need that special 10mm socket. Even a normal 10mm long will not do that. I have to actually buy this separately. I'll put a link in the description of what it is below. So kind of annoying with that part, but as you can see, it fits right on like so. And then we can remove both of those 10mm nuts. And here's what those look like right over here. Nothing too special. Alright, now we're getting below the car. There are two 10mm bolts that actually connect the bottom of the diffuser to the body of the car. They are pretty long. They're kind of deep in there, so you kind of want an extension to get access to those for sure. But this kind of loosens up the bottom end of the bumper to the actual body of the car. There are a few more screws at the bottom here as well, but we'll get to those later. Alright, so this next one might depend on whether or not your car has certain options or not, but mine has these T25s along the sides of the bumper, so I can't remember how many there were, but there are a few on each side, and just remove those and get those out of the way. It essentially disconnects the bumper from some heat shielding for the mufflers, so once you get those out of the way, you're pretty much good to go with the bottom of the car, and those are the only things you have to remove aside from the 10mm. Alright, so at this point, the only way your bumper is actually connected is from the sides over here, where the quarter panel meets the bumper, so you may need to remove your wheel to get access to the fender liner. So I went ahead and did this just to make it easier for you guys to see, but there is just a 10mm bolt, as expected. You can remove that, and then you can kind of snap the bumper out of place, but first there are a few 10mm in the way, some plastic nuts in the fender liner you just need to remove to get access to that 10mm bolt on the bumper. Not too bad at all, it's just kind of in the way, and you might have to lift the car, obviously, if you want to take the wheel off. Alright, so with the wheel off, we can get a better look at what's going on over here. So we got some plastic nuts over here again. I believe they're 10mm again, although they might be 13s. Can't quite tell. I'll let you guys know in a moment. I believe we'll have to remove that bottom one first. There's also these little clips, little trim clips. You basically remove the center, like kind of partially moved over here, and then the entire thing can come out. And essentially enough to get the fender liner out of the way of this sort of crease area where we can access the bolts that attach the bumper. So lucky for me, my bumper actually has part of the carpet sort of removed, so I actually have clear access to the bolt right there. So once that silver 10mm bolt is out, we can actually start removing the bumper from the actual fender over here, the rear quarter panel, just by sort of using a pick tool or something like, not a pick tool, a trim tool like this, a plastic one for sure. You don't want to damage the paint at all. But just kind of by sticking it in, slowly making your way, and just kind of releasing the tabs along the way. It should not be very hard. You don't want to force it at all. Worst case scenario, you spray a little bit of silicone spray on the actual tabs themselves, just kind of loosen up a little bit. But for sure, do not use a metal tool at all, and do not force it. You don't want to risk damaging your bumper at all. So please remember to do that. There will be tabs that kind of go all the way along from the quarter panel to below the taillight and all the way around over here. So you're also going to want to make sure that you have both bolts off from either side before you even start this, just to make sure you can fully get it off without really much of an issue. So I actually put my hand kind of behind from this area down here, and I gave it a little bit of a tug, and the entire thing just sort of came off, just like as you see it here, which is kind of perfect. Nothing was forced at all, just kind of all popped out as it kind of wanted to anyways. Here are the tabs I was talking about if you guys are having trouble removing these. This is what it'll look like. It may be easier if you have your taillight off, although I don't really think it'll have a huge difference. So, yeah. I'm going to do that side, and then we can actually take the entire bumper off. If you have Parktronic like I do, you'll want to disconnect the entire cable attaching those sensors, so you don't want to damage those for sure. So please be careful with that. It would probably be easier if you had two people to carry the bumper off. I do not in this case, so I'll just be careful. That's all you can do. Alrighty guys, so I got my bumper off by doing the exact same thing on the passenger side over here. Now one thing about Parktronic is that they had this little wire over here that actually went through this hole right over here, and it was plugged into this connector right here below the trunk floor. This cable went all the way in here, so I just unplugged it from over here, and that allowed the wire to come out, and then we have the entire bumper out of the car, off the car rather, without an issue at all. Also, there was this vent hose over here, which may be for the gas tank. I believe that's what it's for at least, and it was clipped onto this part of the bumper right here, so just keep that in mind. You don't want to put too much strain on it. But yeah, just leave it as an extra drain for the gas tank or some sort of ventilation hose. But now we got the bumper off. That's essentially it. So yeah, whether you're just changing bumpers or modifying your diffuser or doing something with the crash bars and all that stuff, this video should help you out get to that point. I'm actually going to take this opportunity to polish up my exhaust tips because I got more area to work with over here. I'll be changing my diffuser with a 7-year carbon one, which is a little bit more aggressive and stuff. So I think it'll look nicer with that. Technically, to replace your diffuser, you don't need to take the bumper off, but to get better fitment and to sort of maximize the space you have and room to work with, it's much better to take the bumper off. And as you can see, it doesn't really require that much effort, honestly. If you have some time, definitely better off doing it this way. But expect a video coming up soon about me installing the diffuser and my overall thoughts on the 7-year carbon diffuser that I recently purchased. Alrighty guys, that wraps up this video. Please leave a like if this helped you out, and subscribe if you like AMG content. And stick around for a 7-year carbon diffuser video coming out shortly. Also doing a 7-year carbon spoiler video that will be coming out very soon. So stick around for those.